What are my views on Freemasonry? Man, I got some listeners out there. They just love to keep a brother in some shit. But it's just that really addressing a topic like Freemasonry is like, most people don't understand it. They don't have a clue as to what Freemasonry is. There's some Freemasons that don't even understand what Freemasonry is, and then let alone those that aren't initiated and that get on the internet and get on YouTube and watch all these documentaries about how the Illuminati are a group of Masons and they control the music industry and all that type of stuff. So like, it's so much information out there about Freemasonry. It makes it hard for someone that really is like a researcher to really touch on it, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we all have our right to our opinion, and people watch these videos because they're interested in my views on different things based on my research. So of course I'm going to do it for the people. Of course I'm going to do it for the people, and of course I'm going to give my views and opinions on Freemasonry. And if you're watching this video and you're sensitive to topics like this, then just don't watch it, you know. But I'll do my best to give it justice. Now, to start off, to really understand Freemasonry, you must first understand the history behind it. Because Freemasonry in and of itself, as far as the context of it, is pretty easy to understand. Now, it's in depth when you study Freemasonry, and of course, and when you get initiated into Freemasonry, of course you have to do studying and you have to learn certain things and recite certain things. But to understand the role of Freemasons and what it's all about, it's pretty easy to understand that. But the thing is that many people don't know the history behind. Because when you understand the history behind a thing, you'll understand what it means today. And that's with anything. So the history of Freemasonry goes back to the Knights of Templar. Goes back to the Knights of Templar, basically. And this is basically, I mean, information that a lot of people should already know, you know, if you're getting on the internet watching all these videos about Freemasons. They talk about all this type of stuff. But of course, I'm going to give my views and opinions on it. It goes back to the Knights of Templar. And the Knights of Templar were basically soldiers that pretty much defended the Vatican. And when they went over to Jerusalem, they were taught certain principles of Freemasonry. Certain principles that are now involved in Freemasonry today. This came from your Knights of Templar. They got initiated by, actually, they were taught this by an esoteric group of Sufis over in Jerusalem, or what some people would call them Muslims, but they weren't Muslims. See, it's a difference. They were Sufis. Because being a Muslim now is basically a religion, whereas you had Sawufs or Sufis that go back a lot further than your Muslims of today, which is basically the religious aspect about Prophet Muhammad and all that. You had Sufis in existence before there was a Prophet Muhammad. Put it that way. You had Sawufs that were in existence, and these were mystics that had a lot of esoteric information. So when the Knights of Templar would go and lodge together, when they were working on certain projects, whether it was building or defending or whatever they were doing, they were warriors and they were defenders and they were builders. They were taught by these Sufis when they went over to Jerusalem at one point. They were taught by these Sufis certain mystical sciences, and this is actually where your Freemasonry came from. Now, a lot of people, they think about Masonry and they say it's 33 degrees, and you know, they hear all of that. But really, in truth, it's 3 degrees of Freemasonry. Entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason is the highest degree. It's three degrees in Freemasonry. And many people, they say it's 33 degrees, but what those are just basically levels within the 3 degrees. I mean, you got 11 levels within certain aspects or certain brotherhoods of Freemasonry. You got different types of Freemasons. So certain Freemasons, they go up to the 33rd degree. I mean, you got the Scottish Rite and the York Rite. And believe it's in the York Rite, they go up to 33 degrees or whatever. But still, at the end of the day, it's 3 degrees, no matter how you look at it. The 33 degrees are just sub-levels in between each degree. So there, say for instance, there are 11 levels in between each degree. So 3 times 11 will get you 33. I mean, that's basically how you would look at it. So, and again, I'm surface dwelling and dealing with this topic. Of course, it's way more in depth than this, but I'm trying to show people the overall scope of really what Freemasonry is all about. So they brought this back into Europe, these Knights of Templars or whatever, and they learned the original Masons were actually builders. Then the Freemasons were thinkers. You see, you got the builders and the thinkers. The Freemasons dealt with building the temple of perfected man through the mind originally. So these were enlightened brothers. You know what I'm saying? They were enlightened brothers at this time or whatever. And you had the Moors at this time, which were a group of Sufis as well. The Moors were originally Sufis that were responsible for teaching mostly Europeans, because Freemasonry is very much a thing for Europeans. And this is something that people really need to understand. Originally, I know we hear about Prince Hall and all of that type of stuff, but that stuff came after. Originally, the Moors, or the original melanated people that lived in Europe, had no need to be Freemasons because their information surpassed Freemasonry. The information of being a Sufi or a Sawuf, you were dealing with information that was far more exceeded simple building principles and simple teachings about etiquette and stuff like that. I mean, to them, you know what I'm saying, that was nothing. I mean, because they already knew these things because they went through the Egyptian mystery systems and the Tibetan mystery systems and the South Indian mystery schools and systems. So they knew all about building and civilization, and even deeper than that, they were alchemists and all of that. So, I mean, to them, the information in Freemasonry was just basically what you would teach a child, to be honest with you. And now, I'm not trying, if you don't like this information or whatever, and you're a Freemason, this is offending you, if you're a Freemason, you should be open-minded for one thing, but if this is offending you, then you should probably turn it off or whatever. But I'm going to speak my opinion. I'm going to speak my mind, regardless. And that's kindergarten information, basically, compared to what these ancient Moors knew at the time. And the ancient Moors were very much responsible because Masonry is a European thing. We all know this. Yeah, they have Masonic lodges now in, like, Egypt and certain places, like in Morocco and all of that. Yeah, they have European Masonic lodges in those places now, but at one point, when it first originated, it was basically the Moors that taught and initiated the Europeans into the order, because this was the only way they needed to civilize them, because we know that Europe was in the Stone Ages prior to the Moors coming there. This is history. This is history. This is not racism. Just want to throw that out there. So Europe was in the Stone Ages before the Moors decided to move, and the reason why the Moors came into Europe is because they disagreed with the priesthood in Egypt, or Kemet at the time, so they decided to move into Europe. So this is why the Moors were there, and they brought, and then when you read about the European Renaissance, see, they don't really teach you this in history, but when you read about the European Renaissance, who do you think was building on? Like, where did the Europeans get this information from to learn how to build these marvelous structures? They were initiated into Masonry, brick masons, by the Moors, and they were taught how to build. And this was called operative Masonry. You got speculative and operative. These were operative Masons. Speculative Freemasonry came later when you deal with the esoteric aspect, was dealt with the mind and building the temple of perfected man. See, that's a different degree or aspect of, that's what you call Freemasonry. See, there's a difference between Masonry and Freemasonry. I have to keep pointing that out. That's Freemasonry when you deal with the esoteric aspects that you guys know about now. What you guys know about now is Freemasonry. At one point, there were Masons. Big difference. And they were lodge brothers because they lived together and why they partook in certain building projects. This is why they were called lodge brothers, because they lodged together. Lodge means to live. It's a living establishment. A lodge is a place where a group of people live. So this is why it was called the lodge, because they would live together and work on certain projects for a certain amount of time. So eventually, the Moors were fighting, disagreeing, and basically they taught the Europeans civilization, initiated them into the esoteric order. What you guys have to what you guys must realize is this too. there always have been societies that were basically responsible for shaping the world, or making the world stage. The world is a stage. The events that you see happen are decided upon in secret. And most people know that Masons decide on certain events. Well, it's always been like this. So what the Moors were doing when they initiated the Europeans into Freemasonry, see, at that time the Moors were the deciders of the world stage. See, there was always a world economy, or a global economy, before the 1600s and all of that. I mean, I'm talking back, there's always been a world economy, a global economy back in BC times. Even in the ancient Egyptians, there's always been a global economy. I mean, come on. It's like, this is stuff that people should know, but, you know, based on prejudices and ignorance, people don't want to grasp these type of concepts, but you must grasp these type of concepts if you want to make the shift. You have to understand these things. So there's always been a global society. There's always been that. There's always been a world stage. So Masonry, Freemasonry now we're talking about Freemasonry, was designed to initiate and teach the laymen about how the world works. About how the world works. And the world works based on systems and its structure. You know what I'm saying? And there's things that go on behind the scenes before they hit the public. Anything that you see in the public was planned behind the scenes. And the Freemasons learn how to basically channel in. See, this is the higher level of Masons. They don't even teach them this stuff anymore. But what the Moors was teaching the Freemasons at the time was how to basically, as above, so below, how to channel in the energy from the heavens and bring that down into earth, and where basically you became a tool and a vessel for the heavens. This is what you were when you were a Freemasonry. You basically gave the world what the heavens was speaking, and you brought that energy to the world. So the whole so what I mean by this, let me dumb this down a little bit. So the Piscean age, when you think about the Piscean age, it was the secret societies that were responsible for bringing in the age of Pisces and bringing in the age of the Piscean, or the fish, and bringing in the stories, you know, Jesus and all of that stuff. All of that stuff was decided and written based on scripts. That's why it's called scripture, because it's a script. And they wrote this, and this is when you get into the metaphysics behind the Bible, and I'm going to do a video on that. But these are scriptures, scripts. So that's how the Bible is. It's even written like a play, because this is the thoughts and this is the energy that they wanted to shape the world with, and all this is decided in secret, in cabals and in lodges. And this is how the world always worked. So you had, like, Christopher Columbus, for instance. He didn't discover America. He was the person they chose to go down in history as discovering America. When I say they, I'm talking about the priesthood, or the worshipful masters and the higher ups, the kings of that time. They chose Christopher Columbus to be the one who discovered America for them, for their culture, their civilization. He didn't discover America. The Moors been knew about America, but he had to go down in history as that. George Washington, Thomas Paine, they didn't take America in and of themselves. There was somebody behind them. There was somebody behind them. It's always somebody behind everybody. Things happen in secret. This is how the world works. Nothing in the world is what it seems. Alice in Wonderland. So eventually what happened is the Moors began to fight, kill each other, because there was already wars going on. We read about, like, the French Revolution and all of that stuff. That was basically the wars between different Moors fighting each other. And while the Moors were fighting, the Europeans were thinking about controlling the world stage, because they had enough information to do it, because the Moors initiated them into the brotherhoods. So they had the information to do it, so they decided to do it. And that even happened with the assistance of some other Moors that saw that the world was falling and they needed custodians. See, the world needs custodians to keep the world going, the world stage. I'm talking about the world stage here. Not the planet, the earth. I'm talking about the world. The world is what exists in your mind. Like, when you think about the world, you think about hip-hop, Jay-Z, Dancing with the Stars, basketball, like the world. This is the world to most people. The internet, YouTube, this is the world. So they initiated the Europeans into the world stage, and Europeans had enough information, and with the help of some other Moors that knew that the Moors were fighting, and they knew that basically the Moors wasn't going to be able to be the world custodians anymore, so they gave it to the Europeans. They gave it to the Europeans. Even your Mormon religion was based on a mortal that came to Forgot the guy's name that started the Mormons. But the founder of the Mormons, he talked about he saw a vision. He said he saw a vision. And in this vision, a Moor came to him. See, that's what they don't teach you. The vision that the guy that started the Mormons had was a Moor that came to him. A mortal came to him and basically led him to Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is why, see, Salt Lake City, Utah is really where the whole story behind Lot's wife and all that happened in Salt Lake City, Utah. See, these are all hidden secrets that people don't know about. When you read about Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. See, something happened in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm not going to spill the beans here. These are top level type of ADEP type of information is what we call it. This is ADEP type of information, but Salt Lake City, Utah is the place of Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. And he was led there for a reason. So you don't even know where the real Garden of Eden is at. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. So the guy that started the Mormons was led there for a reason because, and it all goes back to, I know I'm jumping around from subject to subject, but basically I'm pointing out that the Moors gave the Europeans through Freemasonry, they gave them the world stage through Freemasonry. And the Europeans took it and took over, and this is how the Europeans learned what they learned and how they got on top. This is how they got on top, based on the Moors teaching them and giving them the world stage. So Benjamin Banneker Bay, the Moor that designed Washington, D.C., they say he was a Mason, but he was not a Mason. He was a Moor. Big difference. Big difference. Why would he become a Mason when, again, they had more information than that? So they want you to paint this picture of a lot of these guys being Masons and stuff like that, but a lot of these guys were not Masons. Again, the Moors initiated the Masons and taught them the information they had. The Sufis, the Fezes, the Saufs, they taught the Freemasons, as I started off in the beginning. So this is basically what the structure lays the foundation of Freemasonry, and the history of it is directly linked into the Moors. The founding of America, all of that. The founding fathers being Masons, they had to be Masons. They had to be initiated into the world stage. Just like you had to be initiated into the Egyptian mystery system before that. You couldn't be a world ruler or a king if you weren't initiated into the mystery system. Just like now, I mean, you can't do certain things in the world if you're not of either a Freemason or a Moor. Certain things you can't do. So, and that's just the way the world works. See, people don't know the way the world works. So, when you start talking about Masonry and signs and hand signals and grips and passwords and secret words or whatever, all of this goes back to what the Moors taught them. The signs, the sigils, the hand symbols, all of that got incorporated into Freemasonry based on what the Moors taught them. So, I mean, it's just a lot of information, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of information that people need to grasp if they really want to know. But as Jordan Maxwell, I love when he says it like this, how the world works. It's a lot more than what it seems. Nothing is as it seems. So, now you get to the modern day aspect of it. A lot of people say that Masons worship Satan. Now, I don't know. Masons do not worship Satan. Because Masonry is not a religious order. That's why I'm saying that. It's not a religious order. Politicians get into Masonry. They teach principles in Masonry and esoteric truths to help to make good people better, to help to make good men better, to help to make boys into men. It has nothing to do with religion. Now, how did that get incorporated into the Masonic doctrine? Albert Pike. See, Albert Pike, he came in, he changed the Masonic doctrine. He knew the Moors were the patriarch to the Masonry and the Masonic doctrine. He knew the Moors were the patriarch. So Albert Pike came in, he was the one that switched the doctrine and put in the Lucifer thing and all of that and switched it all up. You see, he did that when he wrote Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike very much changed Masonry. He was a pretty big figure in Masonry, very significant figure in Masonry, and still is. And he was responsible for changing Masonry, and this is why you think Masons worship the devil and stuff like that, because of Albert Pike. And he did write about Lucifer. He did put that into the doctrine in Morals and Dogma, which is a part of the reading literature in some lodges. So you got to remember, Masonry really is not united the way you think it is. Once you become a worshipful master, I mean, you can pretty much start your own lodge or whatever. So, I mean, really, they're not all linked up. Like, all the lodges aren't linked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got the Grand Lodge, and they do acknowledge each other. If you know the grips and the passwords, I'm not saying that. You throw up certain signs and sigils, they will help you. But I'm saying as far as like sharing information and intelligence, they're not linked up like that. So Albert Pike basically just kind of like got some clout in Masonry and started a series of lodges on his own and did his own thing. He was a very powerful figure in Masonry. He kind of shaped the image of what Masonry is today. That's basically what I'm pointing out. So that's how the whole Lucifer aspect and all of that came into play or whatever. So that's pretty much my views on Masonry. I mean, it's not something that is evil the way people make it seem as though it is. It's just that a lot of people with evil intentions got involved in it and changed it around. Originally, like I said, it was something that taught civilization and taught men how to become better. You know what I'm saying? There was something like that. It taught men how to become better, but then eventually people lost the meanings. Masonry deals with esoteric truths. You see, a lot of Masons they don't even know what their books are really talking about. That's what you have to remember. A lot of initiates in Masonry themselves don't exactly know what their books are talking about, because they got to remember they just got pieces of information that came from out the mystery schools. That's why I keep pointing that out. Came from out the Tibetan, Egyptian, different mystery schools. And pretty much they don't have all the meanings. Now some do. And then that's why you got different other higher secret society besides Masons. So when you start talking about the Illuminati and all of that, that's past Masonry. The Illuminati is not Freemasons. They may be some members in the Illuminati that are Freemasons, but that's something separate. And I'll do a video on that at another time. But this is Masonry, Freemasonry. So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like everything else, it lost its meaning, and now it has become more of a religion. And I just honestly believe that in anything, you apply the principles. That's what you do. You should apply the principles of what you learned. You know, like the whole structure is all about control. And as a Taoist, see, I'm a Taoist. That's my religion, Taoism. We don't deal with control. You know, we go with the flow. So, you know, you don't follow anybody, and you don't lead anybody in Taoism. So, I mean, I can't endorse following anybody, but I will say that the principles, you should apply those to your life, and make it a part of every part. You know, that's what the hammer is for. You use the hammer to make the principles a part of every part. You hammer it into your daily life so that it's a part of every part. That's what a hammer does. You know, you use the compass to draw circles around your desires, your passions. This is what the compass is for, to draw circles, meaning that your passions and desires should be controlled, under your control. And this is what the compass is for. So you see, you could do a lot of esoteric, apply a lot of esoteric knowledge from Masonry and what they teach. It's just that people don't know what it means. They've lost the meaning, and they're more caught up on the fraternal aspect and the partying. Like most of the time, like Masons nowadays, they're just known for partying and getting drunk and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them don't really know what they're studying or whatever. They're just reciting. But they don't realize the esoteric aspect. That's what I'm talking about here, the esoteric aspect. So, is Freemasonry good or bad? No. It's to the eye of the beholder. I hope this video helped. For more enlightening information, visit my website, 13sidesastrology.com. Peace.